What's up, Wizards? My name's Devin, and I'm from that channel down there, back again. We got a deck tech for you today, like we usually do, but this seems like the first non-budget deck tech in a while, to me at least. Today, we're going to do one of my favorite three-color combinations ever in the history of Magic. This is Mardu Midrange, and this deck, I think, is actually pretty darn powerful. You could also call this Mardu Dragons. We are playing 7 dragons, but they're all red. None of them are Kolaghan, so I already don't know how you're going to feel about that. But I think that this deck is incredibly strong, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead so I can share it with you. We're playing 12 creatures in this thing right here, one of them being Seeker of the Way. Let's go ahead and start it off with the mana curve here. Our only 2-cost creature, Seeker of the Way, obviously wrecks combat. We are playing something like 20 spells in this, 4 Planeswalkers, so 24 spells pretty much in all. So we're going to get a lot of action out of Seeker, and this card here, Monastery Mentor. We're playing 3 copies of this as well. Yeah, just really triggers well off of all of our removal and all of the stuff that we're doing, to be honest with you. Monastery Mentor is good against aggro. It's good against a lot of control decks. Obviously, Bile Blight, Virulent Plague, any mass removal is going to hurt Monastery Mentor. But this card is good against a lot of decks right now, and it's going to be good in this deck with all the spells we're playing. We are playing 1 copy of Butcher of the Horde. In a lot of Mardu decks, this is a 3 or 4 of, and in a more budget thing, you could definitely play more copies of this. Feel free to take out a couple of dragons and slot this guy in, because he is very good, and he blocks dragons well, for that matter. He has good synergy with Monastery Mentor. You can sacrifice those prowess guys and give him a cool ability for the turn, if that's what you want to do. And I like Butcher for all the stuff that he does. Like I said, he blocks well, he swings well, he gets good pressure. That lifelink is important when you can get it, and yeah, everything this card does is good at a very efficient cost. So I think that we gave up on Butcher really fast, and he's better than we remember him being. Card's quite good. Let's talk about dragons, son. We got 4 copies of Thunderbreak Regent and 3 copies of Stormbreath Dragon. These are some of the best dragons in the format, to be honest. I mean, we all know that Thunderbreak Regent is super good, only better in multiples, and comes down really fast for a lot of decks to have to deal with. And Stormbreath, really tough to get around for some things, is a scourge against sort of control and blocks and goes through Ojutai all day. And the haste is good too. So yeah, everything about these 2 cards is good, and we've been playing them. Well, Stormbreath we've been playing for 2 years, and Regent we've known was good since the day we first saw it. So these will both enable Draconic Roar and FTI, Foul-Tongue Invocation. So not only do we have to have them, it's cool that they're here, because especially Stormbreath is just super OP right now, and it's won a lot of people a lot of games, and should do the same for you here. This is potatoes. Let's talk about spells. We've got 3 copies of Thoughtseize to start our spells off here. We're playing black. That opens us up to Thoughtseize. We're sort of Abzan in orientation here. We want to be able to beat control. And one of the best ways to do that is to play multiple copies of Thoughtseize, it turns out. This is very good as a top deck or on turn 1, and is good against not just control, other mid-range decks, and even aggro, you know. I talked about that in the top 20 cards in standard video when I talked about Thoughtseize. It's good against literally everything, so you should probably play it. We've got a lot of removal in this deck. We're playing 2 copies of Wild Slash to start off of our removal. Wild Slash obviously really good early game and sometimes late game if you just want that extra couple of damage to help you finish the game out. We're also playing 3 copies of Draconic Roar. Obviously 7 dragons helps enable this. Draconic Roar has been good, better than people thought it was going to be. It will almost always take out a creature, and that extra 3 damage to the dome is nothing to laugh at. 2 mana for basically 6 damage that's hard to beat, let's be honest. So I'm playing 3 copies. It started off as 4, cut it down to 3. We have a 1 of ultimate price in this deck. Obviously the card's good. I would not blame you if you wanted a 2 of, let's say. But at least the 1 of ultimate price in the main deck here, I think is the way to go. We have all-star removal in this deck, and so I don't feel like we need to limit ourselves too much, although this is splashable. Low cost, instant speed, there's a lot of things to like about this card, but we have even better removal than this. We're playing 3 copies of Mardu Charm, always good. A lot of Mardu decks will play 4 copies, and I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to do that. A lot of good options on this card, another card that's fair to decent against control as well, if you don't have a creature to target on their side of the board. So I think you always have something to do with Mardu Charm, whether you're making them discard or you're killing something. I love Mardu Charm, since I first saw it, just because I love, these three colors a lot. But I think that's exactly what I wanted this charm to do, so I'm glad that it does them. And we're going to play at least the 3 copies of him here, because you'll always have something to do with it. 2 copies of Crackling Doom. I actually want to play more copies of this card. I just can't really find the space. It started off as a full 4 of. I thought that might be foolhardy, but I could support 3 copies. We're also running Foul-Tongue Invocation, a couple of copies of that, and go ahead and let you know. The reason I'll let you know about these 2 cards at the same time, it's because things like, Fleecemane Lion and, say, Silumgar the Drifting Death, obviously Ojutai, all very important cards in this format right now, and these help us laugh at those cards. We're playing 2 copies of more removal here. This is Hero's Downfall, the best removal spell in the entire format. I'm slightly afraid of the 2 black investment here, but the card is so incredibly good that we are going to play it. Sort of bar none, hands down, no questions asked, we're playing Hero's Downfall. We are playing 1 copy of a thing that helps us out a little bit here. This is 1 copy of Read the Bones. I could support 2 copies of this, but I definitely want at least the 1. I want to draw cards, I want to scry, I want to keep the thing going, I want to dig up threats, and I want to dig up removal. This card does all of those things at a splashable price, and I like it. Occasionally we see a silver bullet Read the Bones, and there's a reason for that. It's a more than fine card. And finally, to finish off these spells, 1 copy of Crux of Fate. Just the 1 copy in the main deck. I thought about Perilous Vault instead, but I do like Crux considering we're playing so many dragons that we can target non-dragons here and usually clear out a good chunk of the board. Obviously, if we're playing against other dragons, we can say dragons with Crux of Fate, remove their Ojutai or Silumgar, and then play our own dragon threats. So I like the 1 copy of Crux. I could also see upping this, but again, very tight deck list here. 4 walkers in this thing. We got 2 copies of Sorin, Solemn Visitor. He does lots of cool stuff for us, not to mention having good synergy with, say, Monastery Mentor and his tokens. Even some of the dragons he's got decent synergy with. I love the way that he can carry a game by himself and help out your dudes when you have a bunch of guys. So, really good utility Planeswalker here, and I see no problem definitely playing at least the 2 of Sorin. And to Elspeth, Sun's Champion. We sort of forgot about this card as standard season went on. Started off as just the 1 copy, but realized that Elspeth is just one of the best late game threats we can still drop here. Obviously, again, Bile-Blight, Virulent Plague, there's some things that, take out her tokens, but hell, even her second ability is just still ridiculous against things like Green-Red Devotion, ramp decks, even Control, because they're going to play big guys at you. Obviously, Silumgar gets around her second ability, but Ojutai doesn't. And she's always good when she sticks against anything. So I want at least the 1 copy, but I do want to play the 2. This is a flexible slot, though, to be honest. On to the lands, we got 24 of them, and it's fairly easy to make Mardu mana in this format. I'm not going to talk too long about this because we've been making Mardu mana for, about a year now, almost. And it's fairly easy. I think this is a very reliable mana base here for what we're trying to do. And finally, let's talk about the board. I see that this is a pretty standard board, I would say. You see the 2 copies of Kolaghan's Command, that's against Control. Everything it does is fair against Control. And then, other things. 1 Duress is against Control, and the 1 Thoughtseize, we can really mess up Control that way. And obviously, this is an anti-control deck. You see the 1 copy of Roast, that could be in the main deck, depending on your preference there. But, again, fairly standard board. But these 3 colors have an awful lot of options, so feel free to experiment here. And in the main deck, for that matter. And finally, let me bring up the power rankings here. These are much higher power rankings than normal. Now, it does below average in a couple of categories, but very high in some, too. Obviously, we're very defensive. We're very resilient in this deck because we have so much removal. We're tuned for that. Which is, by the way, why the sideboard is so sort of control-oriented. Because we have so much removal that we have to slot out against Control, we have to bring things in against Control. So, that being said, I think our Game 1 and Game 2s are about the same against all decks, but we are fairly versatile to begin with. So, I think these power rankings are fairly representative, even though the numbers are, it seems very high. That's how powerful I think this deck is. It's got the removal right now in this format to take out a lot of the mid-range and aggro decks, including sacrifice outlets that kill sort of pesky, hard to deal with creatures in all archetypes of decks. And it's got ridiculous threats in its creatures, and its planeswalkers are crazy. Like every card in the deck is uber powerful. That's why it's got that ridiculous power ranking. Try this deck out. Right now, it'll cost you about $240 on TCG Player to make this. I know that's not some of the $10, $20 decks we've been making lately, but that is a fair price to play, really high level standard right now, and I'm going to stake it. I think that this is a fairly high level deck here. So give it a shot. Let me know what you guys think, because I think that this is a contender, man. Yeah, with that, I'm working on a couple of things right now. But as always, let me know what you think. Stay tuned for Magic Origin spoilers and way more deck techs. We're going to have the set review out as soon as they spoil the thing. And Tony and I are working on some more cool stuff. The top 15 underappreciated or cards you're not playing in standard right now. Let us know if you think that's a cool idea. We'll push that one out. I think I've probably talked enough for now, though. I'm just really excited about this deck. You can tell my energy's up. So let me know how you feel about this one down there in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. And we want to grow as a channel because we really like doing this. We hope you guys enjoy the content. I'm Dev from SBMTG. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, Wizards.